Hello, everyone. This is Jeffrey Kerr. The Primetime Emmys are upon us. They'll be taking place on Sunday, September 15th at 8 p.m. on ABC. Jack Mahanes is here to join me in discussing current predictions for the winners in the drama, comedy, and limited series categories. At the time of this recording, the Creative Arts Awards haven't taken place yet. In fact, night one's actually going to be taking place tonight, as today is Saturday, September 7th. So whatever we talk about on this podcast may already be dated by the time you're listening. In fact, I actually haven't made my predictions yet, but I will soon. So are you ready to begin, Jack?
Let's do this. Thank you so much for having me back.
All right, for Outstanding Comedy Series, The Bear is expected to win this for the second year in a row, or I guess technically not second year in a row, depending on how you categorize last year's ceremony taking place, well, earlier this year, since it was obviously delayed because of the Hollywood strikes from last year. But even though I haven't made my predictions yet, I do think this might be an easy second consecutive win for The Bear. How about you?
Yeah, I think it's going to win. I think it's continuing to be a very popular show. The third season, which premiered this summer, was the least well received of the three seasons, but I still think that momentum from the awards juggernaut it became last year, and then that proved to continue to be true, not just for the Emmys but for the Golden Globes, which actually happened a little bit before the Emmys. But then Critics' Choice and then SAG it did very well, and I think that it's still going to pull it out. I do think if the creative arts shows to be big on hacks, I wouldn't entirely rule it out, but I think that this is a pretty I think the Bear is likely going to win this again. Even like when it looked as though Abbott Elementary a couple years ago was going to challenge Ted Lasso still pulled off a second consecutive Emmy win for comedy series, and I think that that's going to be true for the Bear.
Oh, yeah, it definitely looks likely. The Bears also expected to repeat again in lead actor in a comedy series for Jeremy Allen White and supporting actor in a comedy series for Eben Moss Backrack. Do you agree?
Definitely. And I think that, in the worst case scenario, let's just say the Bear completely crashes on the main telecast and loses everything. You can guarantee that Jeremy Allen is gonna win comedy lead actor easily again. Like there's no way he's not winning. And when he actually, I think, in my opinion, had an even better season in season two than he did in season one, and he swept all the winter precursors. I don't see any of these other five being a potential spoiler because the Martins are always going to split. Larry David, they don't really like, giving it to people for playing themselves. And then, for the others, I think that, yeah, Matt Berry and Tifera Woon Natai, I think that the nomination is their prize. But yeah, there's no stopping Jeremy Allen White. This is one of the easiest calls of the night. And then for Evan Moss Backrack, same thing. I think that, he benefits from the fact that there's just not like a huge viable alternative. I mean, maybe you could say Paul W. Downs, who I think had his best season yet on Hacks. And so, that's a sliver of a chance, but I think it's highly unlikely. I think Evan Moss Backrack kind of has this one.
Okay, and I guess that kind of segues to another potential easy category, Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series, and Jean Smart won this award for the first two seasons, and obviously the show took hiatus last year because of, well, the Hollywood strikes coupled with Jean Smart's surgery. Luckily, it came back this season, and she's expected to go 3 for 3 on this show, and I know Adebari may have won supporting for the first season of The Bear last year, and she's in lead for the second season this time, but no, I have a hard time seeing Smarts lose this. The smart money's on her.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yes, I agree with everything you said. I feel really good about this one because something I should point out, she wouldn't just be going 3 for 3 for hacks, she'd be going 6 for 6 in comedy. Because she's actually every time she won, it was when she was up for a comedic role.
Mhm.
And so, because she has two Emmys for her guest spot on Frasier, and then she won Comedy Supporting Actress for Samantha Who a while back. And now that this is, I think, definitely the most acclaimed role of her career. She's won twice already. I think for Io, I think she would have an easier time if she had stayed in supporting. And to be fair, she did sweep the winter precursors. But she's not, I think what hurts her is that she's not in every episode of season 2. So it's interesting that they upgraded her to lead, but she's not, but she has less screen time compared to season 1 almost. And I think that and the fact that Jean Smart's role is just juicier in general, and you could also say it is more of a comedic role. You could make that case, but I think that, I also think that the Bear sweep last year hurts it this year. I think it would be very, very unprecedented if it did a clean sweep 2 years in a row. And I think that, Hacks did come back in a very strong way. Previous season got 17 nominations. This season got 16. And that's probably, it got one less, probably just because there were less guest actors eligible to be nominated this year. So I think that given that the show is still proven to be a hit with the TV Academy, this is an easy place, I think, where the actors branch is going to want to award Hacks.
Yes, and of course we should add last year's winner in this category, Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary's third place in the odds, but I don't see her winning for the second year in a row. I think her win last year was just a benefit from the absence of Smart.
Yes, and just the competition just wasn't that strong in her category. And so, not saying this to be disrespectful of Brunson, but I think if you kind of look at that lineup, she kind of won by default. And, maybe without Smart there, she was seen as, wanting to be given an IOU for probably being the runner up. Actually, I would say almost certainly being the runner up to Jean Smart for when Jean Smart won the second time. So I think IO is the only one with a small chance. And then I think the others have no chance at all, including ironically, the reigning champion in this category.
Now, on to Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series. Okay, it has three legends in contention: Meryl Streep for Only Murders in the Building, Carol Burnett for Palm Royale, and I guess you can even add Shirley Lee Ralph in that category for Abbott Elementary. But Hannah Einbinder is currently expected to win this. It's her third nomination for Hacks, and it'd be her first win. Do you think third time will be the trump for her?
I think so. I think when you look at the field, I would say that, the buzz for Abbott Elementary seems to be dying a little bit, at least in terms of, wins. Like it's still probably going to keep showing up for a little while with nominations, but I don't see Shirley Ralph or Janelle James pulling it off. Carol Burnett, she's Carol Burnett. That was a tongue tie. She's Carol. What you can say about Carol Burnett, she's Carol Burnett. And so she's a legend. They see your name on a ballot. And, obviously I haven't watched Palm Royale yet. I don't know how good her performance is, but I think she's an easy name check. But I don't really, given that Palm Royale didn't explode with acting nominations for its first season, just got, the couple for her and Kristen Wiig. I don't see her being a threat. I know some people were talking about Liza Nicole and Zaya as like, what if the Bear gets on a sweep? Her role is not that significant in season 2. I mean, she has some, good moments, and the nomination's okay, but I kind of find it surprising that she got in and Abby Elliott did not, who had much more to do. So really, like what I would compare, even though I'm predicting the Bear to win comedy series, if I was to make a comparison, I would say Liza Colin Zayas is kind of like the J. Smith Cameron of this category, because J. Smith Cameron just never really had, like, even though she was good on Succession, she never really had that winning material. And so it just was she never in season 4 in particular did enough to, like, get caught up in a Succession sweep. And I think that the same is going to be true. Now, I think if anyone can take down Hannah Einbinder, it's probably going to be Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep did win the Critics' Choice. Now, I don't put too much stock in Critics' Choice, but still, it's something. And, she's Meryl Streep, and she has multiple Emmys. And so I think if anyone can take down Hannah Einbinder, it's Meryl. But I think that things lined up very, very well for Einbinder this year to third time will be the charm for her.
Yeah, plus, unlike Cole and Zayas, Einbinder's role is actually funny.
And yeah, and Einbinder, a lot of people have a complaint that she's a co-lead on the show. But often that helps you. If you're like the secondary lead being thrown into supporting, that often has helped people, certainly at the Oscars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the fact that because Einbinder was never beating Hannah Waddingham for season 1. I know some people were talking about that, but that was never happening. Hannah Waddingham had that all season long. And then Abbott Elementary was just the hot new show at the time, and so that was a key reason why it was Shirley Ralph who prevailed. But I think that this time, I just don't think that the competition is strong. There's not like an obvious there's not like a, oh, this person's like a serious threat to Einbinder. It's like she has a buzz like, oh, but have you seen this person's performance? But I would just say that, I'm predicting Einbinder, but I think that Streep has some chance of winning, but I feel pretty good about sticking with Einbinder. And then some of the people who are talking about Colin Zayas getting on a sweep, I don't buy that for 1 minute.
Yeah, those are all great points. So now on to outstanding directing in a comedy series where there are two episodes of the Bear in contention, Fishes and Honeydew, and Fishes is out front to win. Do you think it'll overcome a vote split?
Oh, easily. I think that this one, Fishes, is just an incredible achievement of directing. Like the way that that episode was shot, the way that, it was all put together, it's a phenomenal TV episode, like in modern times. And Honeydew was a good episode. I just don't think that there's anything about the direction that really stands out about it. But I think that this is I think going to be an easy pickup for the Bear, but for Fishes.
Okay, yeah. Although if they do split, I guess we should look out for the Hex episode Bulletproof to pull a surprise. But yeah, you do make great points as to why Fishes will probably stand out from Honeydew.
Right, because oftentimes, in directing, I think if it's two, the chances are you can overcome a vote split. With the exception of Succession this past year, it was almost a death nail to have 3 episodes. That's why, Watchmen lost. That's why Succession lost for season 3. That's the reason why
People versus O.J. Simpson.
People versus O.J. Simpson. Yes, that's who I was drawing a blank on. Who else had 3 episodes and then lost directing because of Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones for 2019. I should know because I wrote the article recently for Gold Derby about Jason Bateman's shocking win, and that was a key part, was because there were 3 Game of Thrones episodes in there. 2 of them were going to get a lot of votes. And that made the way for Bateman to squeak in. But yeah, no, I don't think that this is a category where like vote splitting is going to be an issue.
Now on to outstanding writing in a comedy series where the Bear episode Fishes is out front to win, and in second place, according to Gold Derby's odds, is the Hex episode Bulletproof. Season 1 episode did pull a surprise here, but it's a show about comedy writers. But do you agree with the odds that the Bear will win this?
I'm actually going to go on a small limb, not a huge one, but a small one. I think Hex is going to win this one. It had its most acclaimed season yet, according to Metacritic. As I mentioned earlier, came back very strong with nominations. And I think that the Bear episode, Fishes, is seen more as a fantastic directorial achievement more than a fantastic writing achievement. I mean, obviously, like the writing's very good, and it's a great episode. But I just think that Hacks is stronger in a lot of categories than people are giving it credit for. And I think that this is a category where we could see it pop up. And so I want to take a risk or two, and I kind of see this one being one where it could pull off a win.
Well, it's certainly possible because, as I mentioned earlier, it did pull off a surprise win in this category for the first season. And again, it's a show about comedy writers.
Yeah, I don't think it was that much of a surprise to win comedy writing. I think it was just on the bubble. I think it was just a question of, like, do the 2 Ted Lasso episodes cancel each other out? But some other people are saying it might not have been that. It may have been that, Hacks, as you said, was a show about comedy writing, or is a show about comedy writing. And I think that, even though Ted was inevitably going to win that comedy series award, Hacks was the show that the TV Academy was the second most passionate about that year. And so could very well be wrong on this, but it just kind of makes sense to, if I'm going to try to call an upset or two, that this is a place to, or maybe anticipate a surprise.
Well, if Hex and the Bear split between these past 6 categories, it should be interesting to see if Hex could pull a surprising comedy series.
Yeah, and some people have floated that. I don't entirely rule it out. I want to see how the creative arts are going to do this weekend. I would say, like, I think if Hacks wins casting over the weekend, then you got to watch out for it to win comedy series, because for several years, with the exception of Abbott Elementary, what one comedy casting, one comedy series. It's gone hand in hand for a very long time, and especially since the new voting system.
According to the combined odds on Gold Derby, Baby Reindeer is up front to win limited series up against True Detective, Night Country, Fargo, Ripley, and Lessons in Chemistry. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. I'm a little bit skeptical about Baby Reindeer pulling off a sweep, but I do think that it is going to win this category. It is the most talked about show of these five nominees. I think that, the word that I was listening to a lot of people say about Baby Reindeer is that it's become a cultural phenomenon since it premiered. And it's just, the buzz has been so huge since the spring. It hasn't really died down. Yeah, I think that this is pretty easy. Even though True Detective is the most nominated show of these five, I think that, True Detective might have a chance in some other categories, but I think that this is pretty safe for Baby Reindeer.
All right, and I guess we should get to one category where maybe True Detective could win, and that's Outstanding Directing in a TV movie or limited series, where the fourth episode of Baby Reindeer is up front to win. And while I can see that happening, well, something worth keeping in mind is that whenever a limited series is nominated in this category for every single episode is because it had one director the whole time, whereas Baby Reindeer didn't have the same director on every episode. And so, narrowing it down, two of its competitors here, True Detective, Night Country, and Ripley's, they're both nominated for the whole show because they'd had the same director the whole time. So, what do you make of this category?
It's a really good question. I think that I think between directing and writing, this is probably the one that's a little bit more competitive. I was listening to some compelling cases for True Detective to potentially win this. Maybe it was possible for Ripley to pull off a win here. I think the safe bet is to pick Baby Reindeer for directing, but I think it's safer in another category that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with Baby Reindeer to be safe. Maybe this is another category where I'll go on a limb for something, but I should point out that I went out on a limb for two categories last year at the Emmys, and I got them both wrong. So, but yeah, I think it's like, yeah, with last year, I was thinking, you got to try to call some long shots to win this. But, unfortunately, the two that I went out on a limb for, the front runner won. Actually, pretty much everyone who was the front runner on Gold Derby won at the Emmys. It was that uneventful. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with Baby Reindeer for now. I may think this through over the weekend and all of next week, and maybe I'll try to call an upset, but I doubt it.
It wouldn't surprise me if I end up predicting True Detective Night Country, given that, well, a number of people are thinking, well, again, from prediction standpoint, thinking it's number two to a Baby Reindeer limited series. But yeah, again, if that stat still stands, like, never bet against that stat again.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, on to a category where it's arguably easier for True Detective Night Country to win, and that's Outstanding Lead Actress in a limited series or movie, where Jodie Foster is out front to win. Having seen that whole season myself, I do think is among some of the very best work she's ever done. And, well, she once again be winning major awards for playing a police detective or investigator, I should add. So, do you agree?
I think she's gonna win. I think that what's helping her is that there's not a obvious alternative in this category. I think for people who are not going to vote for Jodie Foster, I think that a lot of the other nominees are probably going to get some votes. And it's not like we can't talk about the possibility of any of these other four. I mean, you could make a case for any of them. But just kind of going through this list, Brie Larson, I think the buzz for Lessons in Chemistry has kind of died off since it premiered a while back. And that kind of showed with the nominations, because it's argued that it kind of underperformed a little bit. And same, I think you could say for Juno Temple, because yeah, Fargo was expected to get a lot more supporting nominations than it did, and when it didn't, I think that was a sign that, like, maybe they're not as hot. They're not as hot on Fargo as maybe we thought they would be. Sofia Vergara. Some people have talked about that possibility. I can't predict it. I've heard she's really good on that show. You could say that, given that she never won for Modern Family, maybe it might be her time, especially for what's supposed to be a very transformative role. But the person I actually have in second place, and I actually wrote an article for Gold Derby about this because I just saw a lot in her favor. And I just thought, you know what, that'd be fun to write about and post on Gold Derby to kind of, stir the pot, make things not boring for readers. And I actually have Naomi Watts in second. And the reason why I have her in second was because Feud, Capote versus Swans got the most acting nominations of all the shows in this category. Yes, because Fargo, True Detective, and Lessons in Chemistry got 3. Feud, Capote versus Swans got 4. And Naomi Watts, like Jodie Foster, is a movie star, and they love movie stars in this category. Kate Winslet, Amanda Seyfried, Michelle Williams, just to name a couple examples. Oh, Nicole Kidman, of course. Yeah, no, movie stars do very well in this category. But yeah, I just think that I was talking with Chris Sang, who I've appeared on 2 Gold Derby segments with. And I was asking about this category. I was like, "Do you think Foster has this?" And he said, "Yeah. Who else would win it?" So I think that because she's Jodie Foster, she has a lot of awards in her cabinet, but an Emmy is one that she has not won yet. And so I kind of think that, that's going to play a role in like pushing her over the finish line.
Yes, now on to Outstanding Lead Actor in a Limited Series or Movie, where Baby Reindeer is expected to take this one for its star and creator, Richard Gere. I mean, again, not to give too much away about a category we'll talk about a little later, but yeah, it looks like he might just pull Phoebe Waller-Bridge and win pretty much every category he'll be nominated in for a show he starred in and created.
Yes, I am predicting him. I have thought about this. I don't think he's as safe here as he is in the other category that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, the question is like, could it be a Phoebe Waller-Bridge, or could he be a Michaela Cole or Michaela Cole? Michaela Cole. My bad. I pronounced it like Patrick Stewart pronounced it for some reason when he presented the Emmy.
Right.
But yeah, anyway, yeah, I do think that some others have some chance. I actually would say not Matt Bomer, because I think Fellow Travelers is actually stronger in another category. And given that Miss Series, I don't see it when I'm not going to predict it for more than one acting award. Fargo underperformed. I think that that kind of takes John Hamm out of it. And then Tom Hollander. I wish Capote, few Capote versus Swans have gotten that series nomination, because I would have been very tempted to predict him. I know Marcus James Dixon is predicting Tom Hollander to win. He wrote an article about it. He also reiterated it on the Gold Derby segment that he did recently with Ray Richmond, Denton Davison, Daniel Montgomery. But yeah, Andrew Scott may be a bigger contender than some of us realized, and he had some buzz very, very early on in the season. Ripley did well enough to where I think that it's plausible he could win, but I think that Richard Gadd is the safe bet, and so I think that I'm gonna predict him in the end.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think that sounds like a safe bet. Now, on to Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Limited Series or Movie, where Gad's co-star Jessica Gunning is out front to win for Baby Reindeer. Even though I haven't made my predictions yet, I do think it's possible she can win. Do you agree?
From everything I know and from everything I've seen, this is, I think, one of the safest bets of the night. I think if she was in the lead, she would be winning. But yeah, and a lot of people think she should have been in that category, but she's in supporting. I don't think any of these others pose a threat to her. I think that this is an easy call for Jessica Gunning.
Now on to Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Limited Series or Movie. Now, as you alluded to earlier, you think there's another category that Fellow Travelers could win that isn't lead actor, and that would be Jonathan Bailey, who is out front to win according to Gold Derby's odds. He did win the Critics' Choice earlier this year. Well, before nominations were announced, people were wondering if Robert Downey Jr. could win for The Sympathizer, especially coming off his Oscar win this past year for Oppenheimer. But I don't believe his show has really any other nominations. Whereas with Bailey, even though Fellow Travelers didn't get into limited series, the show still got, plenty enough nominations. And plus, it'd be similar to, Paul Walter Hauser last year, where even though Blackbird didn't get into limited series, he still managed to have strong enough buzz to get him over the finish line.
Yes. So I have Jonathan Bailey, but I think that out of all the Gold Derby odd listings of the front runners, I think that Jonathan Bailey is one of the more vulnerable people to lose. But he won Critics' Choice, And so he has won something. I think that the show getting in for both him and Matt Bomer, I think, is a good sign. And Robert Downey Jr., I don't think it's impossible that he can win it, because Mark Ruffalo was the only nominee for I Know This Much Is True, and he still won. And Robert Downey Jr. is an icon, and he's a respected, not just a respected movie star, but he's a respected actor as well. Um, and all that was a big reason why he won his Oscar. And in The Sympathizer, he's playing multiple characters, just like Mark Ruffalo did, and I Know This Much Is True. So I don't think he's entirely out of the question. It's just very hard to bet when he was the only nominee for The Sympathizer. And so it is like, the fact that he was the favorite and then the show basically tanked aside from him. Um, I think that I think that Jonathan Bailey is probably going to win it in the end. But it's interesting, a lot of these people's other shows have done better, but they just haven't really made that much noise in terms of like people like, oh my God, like this person could win. It really has just been those two that people are talking about. And so I think at the end of the day, it's going to be either Jonathan Bailey or Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, although I guess not watch Tom Goodman Hill pull off a surprise as part of a potential sweep for Baby Reindeer.
That's actually, yeah, that's maybe the only other possibility that I can think of is that Baby Raider gets on a clean sweep. And sweeps have often happened in limited, like the White Lotus a few years ago. So yeah, no, if Baby Reindeer is going to be the show to do a clean sweep, then watch out for him.
Although, well, I guess one more point to add about Ruffalo's win, I think he arguably benefited from, I guess, not having a clear alternative who could have potentially overthrown him.
Right, but there was a lot of buzz for Paul Mescal, and there was some talk about Hugh Jackman doing it. It was interesting, even though Watchmen was like the far and away front runner, Jeremy Irons just never really got that talk of like he could win. Jeremy Pope, he was just lucky to be in that category. But yeah, I still contend that Russell Crowe deserved a nomination, if not a win, for The Loudest Voice. The fact that he wasn't nominated altogether, I think, was absolutely absurd.
Anyway, I guess now on to outstanding writing in a limited series or movie, where Richard Gedd is once again up front to win for Baby Reindeer. He wrote every single episode, and yeah, again, to my point earlier about him possibly pulling a Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I think this might be an easy category for him to prevail in.
I think he's much safer here than he is in limited series lead actor. Yeah, I think that he's easily taking this. The fact that Baby Reindeer is the overwhelming front runner to win limited series, I think that it is absolutely going to take writing.
Now, on to the drama series categories, where interestingly enough, one of the nominees here, Shogun, was, well, many earlier on expected to compete in the limited series categories, but it's getting a second season, so it's competing as a drama series. So, good thing there because it is currently out front to win a number of categories, including outstanding drama series. Do you think it'll win?
No, I actually think the morning show's winning. Kidding. No, it's Shogun. It's Shogun. It's
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, I had some. I just thought that'd be funny. Shogun, I think, is very easily going to take this. It also benefits from the fact that, like, there's not a clear alternative. I would have said that The Crown would have had a chance, even if people liked the final season of The Crown, which I did. I enjoyed the final season. People are not as enthusiastic about it as they were for, say, season 4, when it completely swept. I kind of feel like that's when it peaked. And then, season 5 and season 6 kind of looked just good when compared to season 4. I don't think that it's going to contend against Shogun. This is, I think, this is probably actually the easiest of the 3 series categories. Even though they're all fairly easy, I think this is the easiest to call of the 3 series categories.
Now, outstanding lead actress in a drama series. Now, what's interesting is that first season, The Crown, Claire Foy was nominated for playing Queen Elizabeth II, lost to Elizabeth Moss for The Handmaid's Tale. The following year, Elizabeth Moss was expected to repeat, yet Claire Foy won for her final season as a regular. Season 3, well, Olivia Colman was nominated for her first year as Queen Elizabeth II, lost to Zendaya for Euphoria. The following year, Emma Corrin was expected to win for playing Princess Diana, yet lost in an upset to Olivia Colman for her final year as a regular on the show. And so last year, Imelda Staunton was expected expected to at least get nominated for her first year as Queen Elizabeth II, but was snubbed. She did make the cut this year, but Anna Sawai is expected to prevail for Shogun as part of a potential sweep for that show. So do you think Anna will win?
Yes, and I think that this is the safest of the main acting categories for Shogun. I for those reasons that you listed about Milestone, I'm not going to entirely count her out, but the reason why I can't predict that is because she was never singled out at SAG. Claire Foy, Olivia Colman always got individual nominations for The Crown. She never did, and she didn't get in. At the Emmys last year. Now, obviously, like there are people from The Crown that have overcome that, like Josh O'Connor and Tobias Menzies. But this is, I think, a different situation given that Imelda Staunton is like the lead of The Crown. And so I have her in second, but I think Sawai is safe. I did see Pete Hammond, or I did listen to Pete Hammond's podcast, and he actually thinks Jennifer Aniston's going to win, but I don't buy that, to be honest. And he was citing the fact that the morning show got 10 acting nominations. But then again, so did The Handmaid's Tale for season 4, and that season went completely empty-handed. I think that this is going to be a pretty easy win for Anna Sawai.
Yeah, plus I feel like if Aniston were to win, I feel like we should have seen signs of that in recent months or so.
Yeah, I don't think that Jennifer Aniston is going to pose a threat. I think that this is I would say Anna Sawai, I'm going to give her an 85% chance of winning this.
Now on to Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series, a category that a lot of the time lately has gone to the star of either a first-year show or a final-year show, and this year it's expected to go to someone in a first-year show, Hiroyuki Sanada for Shogun. Do you think that'll happen?
I think so, but I don't think he's as safe as or he's not as strong in this category as Anna Sawai is in hers. I think that, I've been listening to obviously Gold Derby, listening to Joy Sang and Chris Rosen's segments, and Chris Rosen has kind of made the case for Gary Oldman to where I'm like, yeah, no, that does kind of make sense. And I could see Gary winning it. Keep in mind, like, Gary Oldman is like absolutely revered by other actors, and they're the ones doing the voting. So Horses did have a good showing in terms of acting nominations. And maybe if they don't want to give Shogun everything, that this is a place where they could vote for someone else. And I think that I don't really buy the others. I don't see Donald Glover winning. Dominic West, if the Crowns last season were more acclaimed, like I'm not saying that the last season of Crown wasn't liked, but if people were like more enthusiastic about it, I would say watch out for him. But I think that the nomination is as far as it's going to go for him. Then Walter Goggins and Idris Elba, the nominations are prized. They're not threats at all. But yeah, at the end of the day, I am going to stick with Hiroyuki Sanada. Yeah, I think that it's just, I think that if, maybe it's possible that Shogun performs similar to Beef, where, the leads win, but maybe supporting is a different story. I think that could be true for this.
Now on to Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series, where Elizabeth Debicki is expected to win following her prizes at Golden Globes and Critics' Choice for The Crown. And, even those who didn't love the final season still loved her performance as Princess Diana. Do you think she'll prevail?
I think that this is one of the biggest locks of the night, to be honest. And I think that I think what officially made her a lock was that surprise SAG win. Because Sarah Snook, Elizabeth Debicki had to go up against Sarah Snook, and Succession was just steamrolling all the award shows and, the Emmys, the Golden Globes, Critics' Choice. And then, Elizabeth Debicki was winning in supporting, but then, at SAG, they combine lead and supporting performances into one category. So the fact that Elizabeth Debicki beat Sarah Snook, that was huge. And the fact that she's only in 4 episodes, well, like a small little appearance in a later episode, but given that she's really only in 4 episodes, that's really huge to win SAG. And she won the Globe, she won Critics' Choice, and yeah, like looking at the rest of this lineup, as I said, I actually wrote the article recently for Gold Derby where I wrote 5 reasons why Elizabeth Debicki was going to win. And my final point I made was there's really no one who can challenge her. Christine Baranski continues to get nominated. She's well liked, but that show and her performance hasn't really generated the buzz that would kind of signal that like she's in an upset position. Um, the morning
Yeah.
show has four people nominated, but given that one isn't touted as the obvious standout, I don't think that one can emerge from the pack and win. And then as for Leslie Manville, even though she's fantastic in her final episode on the show, aside from that episode, she's really not as front and center whenever she's on screen the way Elizabeth Debicki is. Yeah, and like the role's just not as juicy as Elizabeth Debicki. So I just think that even if you were concerned about, the potential of Debicki and Leslie Manville splitting, if Gillian Anderson didn't lose for being in the exact same situation as Elizabeth Debicki, winning the Globe, Critics' Choice, and SAG, having, a co-star, or in Gillian Anderson's case, two co-stars, and then a lot of nominees from one show, and then one nominee from being the only nominee from the show in the category. If that didn't hurt Gillian Anderson, it's not going to hurt Elizabeth Debicki. Yeah, no, this is the one. This is, I think, one of the best bets of the night.
Yeah, great. I mean, Bransky may be the only nominee here who's not up against the co-star, but I mean, I think it's more likely that the four morning show ladies split.
Yeah, and so it really just looks like when it was three from The Crown, four from The Handmaid's Tale, and Ingenue Ellis 3 years ago, and we saw that vote splitting did not happen, and it was almost certainly not going to happen. I think that the same rings true for this one. I think Debicki has this in the bag.
Now on to probably a bit of a tougher category, outstanding supporting actor in a drama series, where Billy Crudup is currently up front to win for the morning show. He previously won for the first season a few years ago. Do you have Billy winning or someone else?
I have him winning, but this is one of the categories where I'm the least confident. Just like with Jonathan Bailey in limited series supporting actor, I really, excuse me, I don't feel confident about this because, I mean, he didn't win for season two, and really the only person in the popular vote system who's won an Emmy, lost an Emmy for the following season, then won again for the season after that was Peter Dinklage. Because he won for season five, he lost for season six, and then he came back and won for season seven and eight. So maybe Billy still wins this. But I think that the person who might be in a position to potentially win, aside from him, is Tadanobu Asano. And and if he wins, then Shogun could be the show that just pulls off a clean sweep. Minus drama supporting actress, of course, given that it's there's no one from Shogun in the category. The other person that some people have talked about as a potential upset that, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe don't entirely count him out, was Jack Loudon. Some people have discussed that. I forget if he still has him, but I know Rob Lucuria was predicting that at one point.
Hmm.
Um, but I'd have to double check to see if he's still predicting him.
That'd be interesting because Loudon's currently only above Mark Duplass in the odds.
That seems unlikely. So I'm gonna stick with Billy Crudup for now. I think that the fact that the morning show came back and got 10 Emmy nominations in the acting categories, and it's finally up for drama series. Maybe this is the place, if voters really like the show, that they can vote for it. It's kind of a placeholder for now, but I gotta really think this through before the 15th.
Well, I will say that, well, I can see myself predicting Asanu, be given, like, as you said, it could be possible, Shogun gets on a huge sweep. And even though he's up against Takehiro Hira in this category, well, and again, I think more have been labeling Asano as the standout of the supporting men in the show.
Yeah, definitely.
For outstanding directing in a drama series, the season finale of Shogun, Crimson Sky is out front to win. Do you agree with that?
Yes, and I think that given that season finales tend to do very well in this category in terms of winning the directing prize, I think that this is, I think, going to be a pretty easy pickup for Shogun. And it was, yeah, and it was the most talked about episode of the season, and so yeah, I think it's going to win.
Now, for outstanding writing in a drama series, there are two Shogun episodes in contention, yet Crimson Sky is also out front to win this one. Do you think it'll overcome vote splitting?
I think so. For pretty much the same thing I said about Shogun for directing, I think that rings true in writing as well. Yeah, Shogun is going to win, and it's going to win for the standout episode between the two. So great being on the podcast as always. And yeah, last year was very, very predictable. in terms of the outcomes. So hopefully we'll get a couple surprises here and there. But yeah, I think that it should make for an interesting night.
Thanks again for joining me today, Jack.
You're so welcome.
Yes, and would you mind telling those listening where they can find you on the internet?
Absolutely. So I have my Instagram and my Facebook handle. It's just under my name, Jack Mahanes. I have my Gold Derby page that's now currently have 11 articles total up on the site since I became a freelance writer. I also have music out there. I have my music on Apple Music, Spotify, and all the streaming platforms. And so, yes, you can find my writing on Gold Derby. You can find a lot of stuff, my other stuff on my other social media handles. And